Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Farmington School Board meeting, October 23rd, 2023. We apologize for being a few minutes late. I couldn't find my keys and I needed a ride here. So we're starting a little, we're starting a little late, and I apologize to those of you that have been waiting for us from home. Mrs. Loze is not here this evening. She is excused. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'll ask if there's anybody here that would like to participate in public participation. Hearing none, I'll go into the agenda, and we have first read on some policies. A looks like JJF, Student Activities Fund Management. Mrs. Barron.
Are these first reads or are they reviews? I've always thought that a first read was for a brand new policy.
Yeah,
So
true.
perhaps we're reviewing these.
Yeah, well, you would, I believe you brought up some questions
Yeah.
last meeting.
I was wondering if we can find and locate something that allows us to use digital money. A lot, and my conversation was about some of the raffles that are going on online, just Venmo me this, and I'm like, that's a middle step that is not basically traceable. So feeling as though the universe is headed towards Bitcoin, Venmos, digital dollars, is that something that DOE or whoever would be in charge has already addressed? And if not, I think maybe we should have some solid ground as to what is allowed and what isn't. That's just my thing. The other two policies relate to it. One's an R, which is how we make it happen, and the other's a policy which allows us to do an R. So, yeah. This is not the one that Mac needs for his, for the DOE though, right? Okay.
Yes.
Mention that to them,
Good.
because I don't know if you can hear me. But I mentioned that to them about the use of Venmo and what do they recommend, and they said no.
Yeah,
They don't
Yeah.
recommend it.
yeah.
Yeah.
They don't recommend
Using Venmo,
Right.
yeah. It's just you can't track.
or any
Well,
online
yeah,
payment.
especially if the Venmo's going to like a coach or an advisor or something of that nature, then you'd be required to get a copy of their statement, but there would be personal things on there as well. So, and we had talked briefly about maybe getting each checking account for the student activities to have a Venmo to that checking account, but they don't, I just think they don't want electronics. So the raffles and fundraisers that are out there now, I don't think we can pull that back, but
Right. No, I mean, and I thought about it a little bit after the meeting, Mary, last week, and I was thinking too, I mean, it's really no different than us having tickets, like when I was in high school and selling tickets, and I'm collecting cash, and then I'm getting it to the coach, and then the coach is giving it to the principal, so the policy covers us that way, so, I mean, if people want to Venmo me for Declan's ticket, or whatever the fundraiser may be, hopefully people are just being honest and truthful and then giving it to the coach, and then obviously our coaches are giving it to the principal so they can go to the correct
that is,
administration for.
that is true. If a
student
kid goes,
activities, funding,
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, if a kid goes
You
out
know?
and sells tickets and brings it home, I suppose that's the same, but
Right.
what we're hearing is that the auditors are going to have an issue with electronic or not.
Well, probably, but see, that's another step. That's the parent collecting money, whether it be cash or check or Venmo or whatever, and then turning it in to a coach or something. But I'm assuming the policy picks up where the coach then takes the money to hand it into the student activities. report to the AD, or if the advisor turns it into the principal.
I mean, at least with Venmo, I mean, it's all accounted for,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, this is,
So if I'm the coach collecting it all instead of having, you know, so it's all going to just one account, at least it's all accounted for in your statements and proof of those funds. And then me as the coach can turn it into the proper principal, so it can be deposited into the fund in accordance to the state law.
so maybe it's more a matter of a procedure as opposed to a policy. The policy says that you can raise money and the money has to go this way and then it has to be dispersed that way, and that's all we're in control of. None of our policies say all your fundraisers have to be cash, or they have to be check, or they have to be cash and check. So I guess where I was going with that is, if we're gonna have an issue with the auditors doing it, we may want to clarify a procedure that does or does not allow electronic. I don't care one way or the other because I don't have Venmo.
I mean, unfortunately, this day and age, I mean, everything's going electronic. I mean, there's even child support through
that's-
Venmo right now. So, you know what I mean? Like,
But
so.
that's my
But I
point.
guess if the coaches, I mean, the principal should know. I mean, Cheryl, you said last meeting, I mean, they're supposed to be filling out those forms that they fill out. And they know, you know, that way administration is aware of it. And then as long as the coaches are then making sure that that money is being deposited into those accounts so they can be accounted for. So maybe just a little refresher with any and all sports teams and.
Can we look, and I think, Mac, I'm gonna ask to put this on your lap a little bit. Can we look at the state's boilerplate policy on these types of things and just see if there's anything newer than the one, we probably used one in December.
Yeah, I can take a look,
Thank
for
you.
sure, yeah. I just brought it up, but there's nothing specific yet that I
Oh, okay.
can find. But it's a big document.
Yeah.
So,
Do we
over
want to revisit
200.
this at a,
Yeah, like I said, and as far as I'm concerned, what's out there right now, I don't think we should pull the plug on how that's working.
right?
More along the lines of down the line, if we're going to pass an audit, and if not, what do they recommend in place of? Because this is what's happening.
So just to add, we have more to go over for student activities later. But I will say this, I mean, an auditor can make a recommendation versus an audit finding. They can recommend that we don't use Venmo. They may not necessarily say, we caught you using Venmo, because there's nothing bad in principle with using a payment service. I would say no more so than cash, personal opinion, because cash is commonly the most abused type of financial fraud. So in essence, you can look at it as no more secure than cash when having this discussion. And the way we make that a secure process is by instituting things, you know, where there has to be a second person involved with these types of things, and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's impossible. I do think that eventually there's gonna be, you know, a payment service that works for schools. I don't know that that is Venmo or if one already exists, where a school-minded company has created an app with substantial tools to track the funds. You know, that could be a better alternative. And a lot of times the education winds up with its own little version of whatever, you know, whatever it is. So. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
Vice Chair. Knowing, for instance, that our students and families handle money for their lunch accounts entirely digitally, and it gets applied to each individual student, I do agree there's got to be some way that we can employ a process that allows those kinds of things to happen, because we're already doing it really through our lunch accounts. Granted, it's through a particular company and they have set it up, but there might be models that we can follow that do allow us to present that same option for our student services.
Yeah, it's a good example. A lot of companies are kind of doing this now. So instead of a credit card for schools, it's a P card. Instead of, you know, cash payments only for lunch, there's My School Bucks, and there's other ways to make payments online. So there's certainly things out there that could inhibit us to do the things that we want to do with or without the commercial option. But we can look into both, certainly. And certainly we'd want to check guidelines and what's the recommendation from the state. Because obviously you don't want to hang yourself up down the road with some kind of issue.
Right.
I mean, if it's not spelled out, then it's really on us to define for now. But
So why don't we, I just made a note to ask Stacy to put it on a future agenda, maybe in the next couple of weeks.
You want to, motion to table policies, policies A, B, and C, JJF, JJFE, JJFR.
We have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
We had no discussion on a table motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Gotta get my bearings here.
That's a cobweb.
Like riding a bike.
New business, family student handbook.
The family and student, the family and student handbook has been revised. The principals have reviewed it as well, and it's presented to the board for your consideration.
So I started to review it. I only got to page 40, so I apologize for not doing all of it. I did have some things. Is that what we're doing now? Like going over questions or concerns or?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So overall on those pages that I looked at, there were just some formatting issues, being on a Word document or a Google Doc, which aren't a big deal, but just to make it look formal. I could give example. I didn't write down my examples, but there's a lot of formatting things that I saw. And then in looking at the pages, I noticed that a lot of the policies and RSAs are underlined and in blue. What is the purpose for that?
They're links.
Yeah.
Okay, so when this is an actual document and not a PDF, there will be links.
Yes.
Okay, so there are some, so I think that's super helpful, and I was hoping that that was the answer. There were some that aren't linked, and perhaps it's because you already did link them, or maybe it was just missed, I don't know.
I would err on the side of missed.
Okay, so that's fine. And then on page 13, the last sentence just has an extra "the" in it. So again, just keeping things as formal as possible. I'm just going down to it right now. Page 13. Nope, I wrote the number wrong because that's not the correct sentence. I'll find that. I'll find what page that was on. I guess I wrote page 13, but that's not right. On page 28, it talks about preschool drop-off. And unless we're changing what we do today, it's written incorrectly. So it says that drop-off is in a 10-minute span. So you can drop off your kid from 11:20 to 11:30, but that we actually only drop them off at 11:30. They don't open the doors before then. And same for the morning. It says from 7:50 to 8, you can drop your child off, which again, unless they're changing it, is inaccurate. They open the doors at 8.
Okay,
Just a couple more things.
please.
Page 33. Page 33. On the last bullet, how can we support you? Staff at Henry Wilson. The I is capitalized. If that could be lowercase. Page 37, it says year-end activities is the last bullet again. It says, instead of 7th, it says YH. It just needs to be changed to a T. And that's as far as I got.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would it be possible, if I may, Joe, would it be possible to get a list of what was changed? I mean.
Yeah, I like that.
Like a
Or just the old one.
a legend.
change log.
Yeah, changelog is exactly where I was going with that.
I
because
think if you go to, let me just,
I looked at the end.
so in the File tab, if you scroll down to Version History, it gives you two options. If you click See Version History, there'll be, I call it a door that opens on the right-hand side, and it chronologically gives you the dates when changes were made, and strike-throughs would appear. If you don't want the strike-throughs to appear, you uncheck the box Show Changes.
We can.
Ooh, that's helpful. No, I haven't done it yet. I was just listening.
Okay.
So this has not gone out to families yet.
No.
So what have we been operating under as far as policies and procedures? I mean, being this, I know we're quite a ways into school. I mean, are we, maybe I don't want to ask that. Well, I get it. We're late on this. Have we had any issues popping up that we, okay.
No.
So this will just be helpful.
I did want
But
to
for the
add that.
benefit of everyone, as an SAU, we're looking at how to do things better for next year so that we're actually ready with what we need for opening day on the last day of the previous school year.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was just turnover this summer of staff and the lateness into the summer where we were able to hire folks. It didn't give them a healthy portion of time to really work on some of these things. Does the board need more time to digest it, or I know Jess, you did
I
a
know.
really thorough job and I
I think
appreciate
page
that.
47, it's just a formatting thing too, like with the schedule. So if you look at page 47, I think you just have to hit the enter tab like one more time, so then the delayed opening, early release would go down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't able to get through all 95 pages either, so
Well, you made it further than me. That's good. That was
Does the board want another week to get through the
I'd
next
like
part of
another
it?
week. I liked reviewing it, but I definitely needed more time.
And if you're not familiar, above the Google Doc toolbar on the right-hand side, to the left of the camera icon, if you click on the talking bubble, that allows you to put comments to the side.
Oh, okay.
That
but
part.
we're not, but ours is coming up as a PDF. That's, I think, the issue.
Oh,
I'm familiar with what you were saying
You're to share.
because yeah, so it's not a shared document. It's in our board folder. It was as a PDF. So we can't
Okay.
see those edits and stuff, Jim. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the
No,
original. I
that's
didn't know
okay.
that.
So maybe do you mind just sharing it with
Not
the
at all.
board? Okay,
Yeah.
that would be really helpful because then we could do it all, but as PDF, obviously we can't.
And what I read so far, I was very impressed. I can tell a ton of people have worked on this, and it's super thorough. So I really appreciate what I had seen so far. Just picking up, I just wrote down the things I noticed.
You
Not
can
trying to
entertain a
pick on-
motion to table this until but let's be specific and table it to the next meeting. Someone
Okay.
wants to make that motion.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Barron. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Parker. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Unfinished, any other new business that maybe didn't hit the agenda?
Mary?
No.
Ooh.
Unfinished business.
I got unfinished.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's go.
There's a live link in your chat.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Unfinished. Checklist update. The checklist that we threw out there, is it been able to work through any of that, or is that,
I have that on the whiteboard back in
okay.
my office. I'll speak to some financial
Okay.
info in the next section, but
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I put a motion on the floor to have the business administrator file the SRO and tester hardware and software into ESSER 3 by close of business tomorrow.
I have that's a motion.
That is a motion.
I'll second it for discussion.
It's just,
am I allowed to discuss?
oh, sure.
Certainly.
We don't have an independent grant writer. So I don't know who would do that.
Does Jim have credentials to get into
We-
the
We
portal?
shouldn't have the superintendent writing and approving their own grant.
Okay.
This is kind of where we're stuck.
Yeah.
Of course, if
Can you get credentials?
I have no experience writing grants
Okay,
and in separation of powers, just like he shouldn't be approving his own work, I shouldn't be reporting my own work under the approval. Not to complicate it, but it's been something that we've highlighted to resolve. And we're advertising the position, and I know we have some applicants, but we need to set up and interview the applicants and so on and so forth to get someone in there at least to help us write grants.
I guess my concern, I don't know if we could, if we don't have anyone that's credentialed to get in, that's an issue.
That's just transparency. So to be fully transparent, we can get into the system. We're able to work on the grants that we have. But the actual art of writing the grant and submitting the scenario for approval and then editing it to, their type of,
But that was all provided. The narrative, the dollar amounts, the breakdown of the schedule, I believe that was all forwarded to you by former board member and someone that has the knowledge of how to write those so that they'll
so
Stick.
I guess if we credential a third party and have them submit that narrative, we could move forward with your motion. Yes. Does it guarantee that that would be approved? No. Does it guarantee that the funding is up to date with ESSER 3, which it's not? The accounting of the funding. There's still work to do there.
I get it.
Pertinence tells me to be patient with ESSER 3, and not overload the process, although that's certainly something that's on my radar as well. I can confirm I have received said email with said narrative, yes. How does the board want to proceed with that?
Well, with this particular project, it's my understanding that we've already sort of been pushed to the front to get some things done, and I'm afraid that we're going to fall in back of the line again if we don't get this particular issue squared away. And I get what you're saying as far as superintendent designee doing that piece, but I guess that's the one exception that I would like to see us make.
The SRO program, we understand, is already in ESSER 3. That has been in, and as far as I know, was accepted. But the test to hardware and the software and, the hardware and the software is part and parcel to the SRO. Once that's been approved, which it has been, the SRO, this should just be like a rider on that. The narrative's already been done, the budget's been done, those types of things that my second part of that is I know that the originator of the software was able to reserve a time frame, pushing us closer to the do it today
Well, that's
line.
what I was trying
Yeah,
to get at. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
And he bought, didn't pay money for it, but he was allowed to have a 30-day window to get these 200 devices that will use the software to get those programmed, to get them done, so that once it's all approved, everything's in, these guys have a few days to program everything, and then they get delivered. Every day that goes by, now that it's been brought to the public's view that this is in process, if God forbid anything happened in the meantime, I think that, so in my mind, that puts it higher up on the level.
Well, and like you said, it would have been perfect to use for the preschool issue,
Yeah, it certainly
Well-
would have.
Valley View in general.
Yeah. I guess we do have a motion and a second. If it's not doable, it's not doable, but
Is it technically doable? with the circumstances you provided, yes, I think we can submit the narrative to ESER 3. Financially, there's a different concern. I don't know how to best enter that discussion because it is quite detailed.
All right, if we need to, table that, we can talk about it later, I guess. No, that's all I have. Oh, we didn't take a vote.
We have a motion on the table,
Yeah.
on the floor.
Any further discussion?
I'm not sure that I'm comfortable though, I mean, based on the like what you just mentioned about financials, and it's a bigger discussion, so I'm not sure that I'm comfortable voting to move forward with that motion without the information that Mac.
Well, I can either withdraw my motion or we can table it
Would you be
until later in
okay
the
with
evening.
making it a priority that we do this right away? I mean, as opposed to setting a date and time.
No, because I think quite frankly, I think it's already been made a priority and it's not done yet.
Okay.
And so, a vote has a little more meat to it.
Okay.
And so, what about the points that you want to make are non-public in nature? Are they non-public in nature? Are we talking about personnel?
We're
Are we
not talking about personnel, but I do have to get into the nitty gritty of how our money moves through our bank account and some other things that are just detailed.
Well, that's actually not a topic that can be discussed in non-public.
Correct.
Finances
So-
have to be discussed.
So the reporting for ESER 3 is back to September 2022. That means we've put an awful lot of money out there that we haven't been reimbursed on. And to put more money out there without receiving a reimbursement could jeopardize our financial stability with the cash in our account. Because it's a one-way street where that money is going out and it's not coming in. And this is a large sum of money, if I recall, like 300,000 or something in that ballpark. Or
145, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
right
under
around that,
300, yeah.
So that would put a large strain on us if we had to pay that out, say tomorrow or even by the end of next week. And I'm not saying no, don't do it. It's more of a deep breath and then do it. But
Well, I certainly understand that. I can revise my motion to table until possibly the other end of this meeting, or table it till next.
Motion to table, do I have a second? I'll withdraw my second on that. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Other unfinished business? Financials.
Okay, so we met with the auditors this week. Lots of info. I'm going to come back to them in non-public too, for a scenario that does fit. The auditor made it pretty clear that they were able to get going with our general fund, which is very good. So I'm very happy with that. The work that Pam has done in tandem with myself has made a great difference for them in being able to work on those funds and having them tracked through the end of the year. We've turned over all the requested reporting for the general fund. And then the last piece of this, because we've tied out every other grant through the end of last year, is to tie out ESER 2 and ESER 3. So that's something I've begun working on. And until that's done, we cannot finish the audit as a whole. But they can proceed with their work on our general fund. So kind of two things are happening. I've taken the grants they've taken the general fund and away we go. So that way our progress isn't stalled or ground to a halt. Because that plays into a much bigger timeline of making sure our town can set a tax rate. So in order to really faithfully file the DOE 25, our grants have to be tied out. In order to finish our audit, our grants have to be tied out. In order to go ahead and get a tax rate set, we should have our audit done. It's not necessarily a requirement in the same year, but it's good for doing the DOE 25. It's good for checking our work and giving the right fund balance number. So it's all equally important. And so our plan right now is to now take the work that we've been contributing towards the general fund and finish tying out these grants, and then complete the DOE 25, complete our audit, and move on with next year. And then kind of with that, we've entered into like our budgetary thinking. I've designed a kind of like a Google Doc like he has for the policy, but in Excel, so Google Sheet. That Google Sheet is going to go out to our stakeholders at the school, our admin team, who can work with their subordinates and teachers, paras, to go ahead and help budget their expenses for next year. So I hope to have a budgetary proposal for the board soon as well, one that we'll be able to eventually take to the budget committee and then to the voters. So the work has begun there. Some good news is our fresh fruits and vegetables application has been approved by the state. We've received the rates for health trust, which are forecasting a 4.7 increase in dental. So that's mixed news, but it's not terrible. It's within side of 5%. So, I mean, there's an expectation to a degree that the price will rise over time. But there wasn't any major jumps as opposed to last year. I'm not sure if you guys saw a big jump, but it was pretty bad last year with school care, for example. Some rates went up 15%, just giving everyone an idea. That's all I have for direct finances other than the reporting I've already provided. But any questions, concerns, or anything for the list?
I have more specific questions just about timeline on DOE 25.
Okay.
I get what you just said you're doing to get it ready, but what are we looking at? Because if I remember correctly, last week it was 7 to 10 days. I got a call from the town manager today, and he's like, "So where you at?" I said, "Well, we'll find out tonight, like how close we're getting."
Yeah, so a lot of the other work outside of the grant work has been done. I'm just looking to finish these grants, get them on the DOE, and then start the process of submitting that in. So I really hope to have it done this week.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Eric?
Are you planning on attending Wednesday's meeting? Budget
Budget
committee?
committee, yes. Yep.
Excellent. I was going to ask about the DOE 25 as well, if there was a date set. So this week, I know that will come up on Wednesday. They will ask you for a date.
Yes.
Well, DO 25 is first, and then tax rate setting flows
Right.
after the 25, so.
That's all that I have.
Okay.
That's all I have.
What's up?
Thank you.
I must be doing something right. Everybody wants to know about the DOE 25.
It's all that's
Okay,
left of
learning
it,
so much. You're teaching everyone.
other than after 2 and 3. So
I don't even got a clue what I don't. I know its importance. I don't know what steps. Okay.
Any public participation? Hearing none, our next meeting is set for October 30th, which will be next Monday. And we have some manifests to sign. At this point, I will ask for a motion to go into non-public session 1 under RSA 91A:3 to A, B, and C personnel.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Parker. Do I have a
Second.
second? Second by Mrs. Barron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, folks.